All right, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be discussing the second vehicle that I will be bringing to this channel, which is actually sitting right behind me, the Lexus GX470, one of the most legendary vehicles probably around. And if you are into overlanding at all, if you're into the off-road space, you know the significant value of the GX470. So just some basic facts about this specific GX. It is a 2007. There was only one owner prior to myself, and it is a California vehicle. So wasn't in a rust belt, don't have to worry about rust on the undercarriage or the frame at all. The individual that owned it actually used it for real estate primarily, so there is quite a few miles, 195,000 on it currently, but all maintenance was always done at the Lexus dealership. She actually just replaced the airbags in the rear earlier this spring as well, so mechanically, it's in phenomenal shape. Cosmetically, though, it's in really rough shape, and I mention that because if you are familiar with the Lexus and the GX470, then you probably are familiar with the paint issues that these cars or vehicles had. So cosmetically, we do have a couple issues with it. We have a dent that is on this side. We have paint chipping that is occurring on these quarter panels. The worst paint chipping though is actually occurring up on the roof. The roof is in horrendous shape. You can see it from the front, but once you get up on top, the apparent damage or the paint chipping and flaking is extreme. Outside of that, we have some paint that is coming off on the doors on both sides, and then just on this quarter panel, this rear quarter panel as well. Other than that though, interior-wise, the seat's torn on the driver's side, and then also the dash is cracked, which was common with these vehicles. Outside of that though, this thing is great, and for the price point that I picked this vehicle up for, it was really hard to say no to not getting this one. Now you may ask why I decided to add a second vehicle, and to be honest, it wasn't really on the radar a whole lot until this popped up. I was always thinking about adding a second vehicle more as a daily driver, so I'm not driving the Tacoma as much. The mileage on that, so it is a 2021, and I am just about to hit 83,000 miles on that. So was kind of looking not seriously for, a secondary vehicle, mostly just to drive around town, something to drive in the winter months as well. And then this popped up. So it is not the best daily driver, and I say that just because of the gas mileage. So with it being a V8, in town, I'm able to kind of squeeze out 14 to 16 mpg, but the V8 is fast and it's easy to get on it, which overall decreases the MPG. So while the MPG is not amazing, one of the great things about the GX470 is the all-time four-wheel drive, which living in Montana, having the snowstorms, the winters that we have, I definitely wanted something that had four-wheel drive. I came from a Subaru actually before getting to the Tacoma. That thing did phenomenal in snow, and with the all-time four-wheel drive that this has, it also has the center diff lock as well. It will have no issues getting around in town, getting up into the mountains, to the ski hill, wherever I'm going, and just another pro to picking up this specific vehicle. Now, in terms of exterior modifications or things that have already changed, honestly, hasn't been too much. One of the largest things that we've added is this Sherpa roof rack, which was sponsored / free by Sherpa. I'm a huge fan of the racks. I run the rack on the Tacoma. I had the full-size rack on there, and now we have the rack on the Lexus as well. Outside of that, we have added new tires just because of the tires that were on this originally didn't have much more life in them and weren't going to be suitable for a Montana winter. So we have added the Wild Peak AT4Ws in a 265/70 R17 size. Outside of that, I've just added some LED bulbs in the headlight housing. And then probably one of the most common things that you'll see for folks who take the GX470 off-road, and a very easy thing that you can do to get a little bit more clearance is actually removing these bottom side steps. So couple bolts, couple clips, and you pop those out, and instantly from a side view or perspective, you get a lot more ground clearance. So outside of that, that is everything that I've done exterior, but we have done some things on the interior that I'm super excited to show you guys. Now, I think one of the coolest things about the Lexus, and something that I'm super excited for, is not only the interior space that the Lexus has, but also this rear door that swings open. There's a lot of modifications that you can do for this rear door that opens. I've seen people add MOLLE panels. I've seen people do a drop-down table. So super stoked to kind of explore some of the possibilities with that. But once the door is open, there's a ton of space in the rear and a ton of potential that can be done as well. So first things first, we have the Goose gear fridge slide out, and this was actually part of my Tacoma Goose gear setup. Just didn't really have a purpose or a use or a need for that in the back of the Tacoma. So the plan is to actually have this stay in the back of the Lexus. Now, we haven't secured that down yet. We still have to do a base plate or find a way to secure that. And haven't quite decided which side I want to place that on. Leaning more towards the driver's side, mainly just due to the fact that we can lay down that passenger rear seat. We can kind of move the passenger seat forward in the front a little bit, and there is enough room to create a single person sleeping platform on that passenger side. So with the fridge slide out, as you can predict or expect, we will be having a fridge in the back, obviously very soon. And then with the roof rack, kind of already, like I've highlighted, I definitely want to add a rooftop tent to the top of this. I would love to take this vehicle camping, whether it's wintertime, summer, fall. It's definitely going to be built into a simple overlanding rig. So I want to try to keep everything super basic, not completely built out like the Tacoma. And really, that will just have another vehicle for the channel. And then also if friends or family ever come into town and also want to use it for camping, then we have it set up. So if we add that, if we add the tent, and if we go winter camping, that's going to lead to some power demands. And I was kind of going back and forth of, do I add a in-house battery like I have on the Tacoma, or do we just rock a power station for a bit? And that's where this thing comes into play. So this is the Blueeti AC70. This is a 768 watt-hour power station, which is a very good size if you're looking to just power some basic things such as a diesel heater. If you're looking to power a refrigerator, it's got a DC port. Also has AC ports as well. So these will go up to 1,000 watts. I've also used a heated blanket or a heated throw inside my sleeping bag. And again, this could power it. It's got USB-C and then USB-A chargers as well, and input for solar or to charge off of the new item that I'm super excited for, which is the Blueeti Alternator charger. So just recently, my friend and I, Blake, actually worked through the install on this, and I think this will change the game and potentially change the minds of folks who are kind of on the edge of potentially doing a power station in their build out. So there's two major reasons why I think this alternator charger will be a game changer, not only for this setup, but for a lot of folks out there. The first major reason is this will work with 95% of the power stations on the market. So if you don't own a Blueeti power station already, or if you own another brand, there's a very, very high chance that this alternator charger will work with your current power station. The second thing that is huge about this alternator charger is really just the ease of install. So my friend Blake and I actually installed this about a week ago, and the overall process of installing it was extremely straightforward, unlike if you're doing an in-house battery lithium setup. Comes with the battery terminals already connected, which basically means all you have to do is unhook your battery in the front. The hardest part of this install is going to be routing the wire from the engine bay, routing it into the vehicle, routing it to the back or wherever you want that. And then everything else is pretty much undoing a couple screws, plugging it in, screwing it back in, and then determining your placement on where you actually want the alternator charger at. After that, You turn on the vehicle, the alternator charger will turn on after about 30 seconds. You can have it connected to your Powerstation. And within the Blueeti app, you can also adjust and set for the specific Blueeti Powerstation that you have. If you are not aware, there's only a couple different ways that we can recharge these power stations. First off, probably the most popular one is actually just recharging it once you get back from your trip off of the AC outlet in your house. That's going to charge at the fastest rate, and majority of these power stations on the market now will actually charge 0 to 100% in less than 60 minutes. The other way is you can actually plug this into a cigarette port in the vehicle. The only downfall of that is it only charges it at 100 watts. So for example, if we look at this one, it's 768 watts. If we're charging at 100 watts per hour, you can basically assume it's going to take close to 8 hours of driving time or the vehicle being on to charge this power station back to 100%. Now the third method is you can also charge these power stations off of solar, but again, there's going to be limitations there. Solar panels have to be purchased. Then you also have to plan on if there are days of shade, cloud coverage, if you're camping in trees, kind of like the environment I'm currently in right now. All of those factors are going to decrease the efficiency of the solar panels. And then also if you have cheaper solar panels, most often the overall efficiency of that solar panel is also decreased. So in theory, let's just say you had 200 watts of solar, maybe you are maxing out those solar panels at 180 watts. You can plan to recharge this in about 3.5 or 4 hours at that point. So I've had my fair share of power setups in the Tacoma. I've gone through my fair share of power stations. And the main reason why I actually switched to lithium batteries in the Tacoma was just due to how I was recharging, or the ability to recharge a power station, and then also just my overall power demands. I think if this Alternator Charger 1 was on the market and available before going with the in-house battery setup, it would have been a very strong contender. I already had a power station that wasn't a Blueeti, but just having the ability to recharge at up to 560 watts would have completely changed my mind on doing an in-house battery setup. Again, this keeps it very, very simple. If you don't want to do a full in-house battery setup, it takes a lot more work, it takes a lot more planning, and maybe you don't have the confidence to do that yourself. That's where this comes into play. Super simple, super basic install, and if you already have a power station, then you can already keep using that too. So that is the introduction to the Lexus GX470, which is crazy to say, guys. Overall plans for this vehicle are to keep it pretty simple. I don't want to go as radical as I did with the Tacoma. I definitely want to do some things to it just to make it a little bit more capable off-road, and then also have it as that secondary camping vehicle, not only for myself, for the channel, but also just for friends or family that come into town and potentially want to use this. So other modifications or things that I would love to do to this is just add a small lift, 2.5 inches all around. That would lead to doing some larger tires, and I would love to do 35s on this just because of the V8, which you're probably thinking that's crazy, especially if it's a daily vehicle. From a aesthetic purpose though, 35s on the Lexus look absolutely incredible. So that's a possibility, or we just go with a 34 like I have on the Tacoma as well. Doing a bumper trim in the front and then also the rear, and then adding obviously the rooftop tent, hopefully from FSR there, and then doing some interior modifications like that base plate securing the fridge slide down, potentially doing a seat removal in the rear so we can add that single person sleeping space inside, or just having that extra space for storage would be awesome. Outside of that, I don't want to do too much else or too much to this vehicle. I want to try to keep it as basic, as simple as possible. I'm not planning to do anything like I did with the Tacoma, and yeah, super excited. Now the paint issues at hand, we're gonna have to take care of those relatively soon. More so what's happening up on the roof. The roof is in horrendous shape. It's chipping and peeling all the way from the front all the way to the back. This does have a sunroof as well. The plan to deal with that, I'm honestly kind of torn on the approach to take. I have thought about rhino lining or raptor lining the whole vehicle and just being completely done with it, which there's pros and cons to that as well. The pros, it's cheap. The pros are it will also last forever. I don't have to worry about scratches or anything like that. Not that I'm worried about scratches on this vehicle right now. I don't plan on repainting this vehicle. I don't plan on wrapping this vehicle. So that was kind of why I was thinking that approach. My other plan was to just basically sand the roof and then rattle can, spray can the top myself, just as a cheaper alternative to getting it painted. Could also wrap the roof as well. Another possibility, but the rest of the vehicle will eventually need some tender loving care just based on those spots that are kind of starting to come undone. And that paint chipping is extremely common on this specific year model and then kind of the surrounding years as well. So with that, I would be curious to see what you guys have for input to deal with the paint. If you guys have any other ideas on what to do, definitely leave a comment down below. Would love to hear those. But with that being said, super stoked to have this vehicle on the channel. You will start to see a little bit more of it as we add some more modifications as it gets set up to take out, and then potentially and hopefully do some winter camping videos with it this winter as well. So thank you guys. Hopefully you enjoy this video. Leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and see you all in the next one.